Welcome to the Holistic Kids Show. My name is Zane.
My name is Abdullah.
And my name's Iman.
We are the Holistic Kids here to educate and empower us kids from the inside out. Have you heard about diplomacy?
I never heard of that. What is that?
Well, today we are going to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk to one of our heroes who is literally changing the world one kid at a time.
And so today's guest is someone who proves that age does not limit impact. Momin Ahmed is one of the youngest people ever named to Forbes 30 Under 30 and the founder of Model UN, a global platform helping young people develop leadership, confidence, and diplomacy. Momin Ahmed is a social entrepreneur dedicated to expanding access to education. He's, like I mentioned, he's the founder of Model UN Academy. He's engaged with over 17,000 students in 101 countries with free global education in 104 different languages. Featured in the Chicago Tribune, he's also a recipient of the United Nations Association of the USA Global Goals Impact Ambassador Award, and as well as the Youth Service America's Everyday Young Hero Award. Momin was actually also one of the youngest delegates in history at the United States UN Advocacy Summit. So we know you are incredibly busy, memorizing your TEDx speech as well.
Yeah, like I am.
So we are so thankful for your time today with us.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys so much for having me. Excited to be here.
We would love to know how you became interested in this amazing work you're doing with all students around the world.
So we would love to hear your story.
For sure. I started Model UN, which is an activity where students simulate the United Nations as delegates in the United Nations. And each student represents a country, and then they debate about a specific issue within the UN and then form solutions to it. These conferences can be half a day to 4 days or anywhere in between. It's similar to debate in that regard, that it's an extracurricular activity that's pretty general. And I first became involved with it in 6th grade. I was put in some summer camps by my parents. I did not want to do it at all. I was really against it, but I did it for those 3 summers of middle school. And I didn't enjoy it that much, but when I entered high school as a freshman, I joined our Model UN club because I was just looking for things to do. And I think when I started high school is when I really began to love it. So Model UN is something that teaches public speaking, research, communication, problem solving, and all of these different skills that are vital to how we interact with our society. And I began to realize that as a freshman, and I began to win awards, participate in more conferences, meet more people. And I thought to myself, this activity is amazing. But then sophomore year came around, and I attended my first international conference at the University of Chicago. It was a 4-day conference, and there were people from all over the world. But one thing I noticed that really kind of worried me was the fact that there were so many kids there who came from other parts of the world or even who were local that weren't able to do Model UN because they didn't understand the procedure. And don't get me wrong, these kids were some of the smartest kids I had ever met. They had amazing ideas, they had amazing grades, they were smart in every way you can think of, but they would just give a speech for the wrong length and time, or they would not follow procedure for Model UN, and then they would write the wrong position paper or something of that regard. And I went up to one of them who I had become friends with during this 4-day conference. And I said, hey, what's up? You're super smart. You have great ideas. Why isn't this working for you? And they explained to me that they came from a lower income community. And Model UN is a very expensive activity. You'll find that just traveling to the conferences costs hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, not to mention hotel fees, the actual conference registration fees, and on top of anything, educational resources. So these kids I was talking to told me that they had spent all of their club's money just getting to the conference and registering for it, and they didn't have any to actually purchase educational resources. So most of them didn't know how to do the intricacies of Model UN. And on top of that, a lot of them only spoke a different language as their primary language. So they spoke English as a secondary or third language, but their original native language was one that Model UN resources weren't available in. So I thought to myself, okay, I've done Model UN since 6th grade. why don't I just write a few guides to help people out, send them to these kids that I've met at this conference, and maybe I'll help out 5-10 kids here or there. And so this was in the summer of 2024. And I spent probably 4 to 6 months just typing away on Google Docs, writing guides, pouring everything I know into the docs, refining them. And there's so many different procedures in Model UN, so many different types of committee, that it really took a long time. But once I was done, I linked all of these docs together on a Google site. So it was literally a collection of Google Docs on a Google site. And I started sending them around to these kids and schools that I had met at that Chicago conference. And I got a ton of positive feedback. People were like, this is amazing. We love this. Keep doing what you're doing. This is really helpful. Or sometimes I'll reach out to a school and they'd say, hey, we don't need any more educational resources right now, but we know this school that's really been looking for something like this. And obviously I sent them free of charge, and the feedback was way more positive than I ever imagined. So I started turning it into an organization. In the beginning of 2025, we incorporated it as a nonprofit in the state of Illinois. We were featured in the Chicago Tribune as well, which was amazing for our visibility. We began to turn ourselves from a Google site to an official website, incorporate different programs. We have an ambassador program with currently over 70 ambassadors around the world. We have chapters around the world. And that same summer, we started a masterclass, which is live webinars for free every other week that students can also watch on demand. So we're really working to teach students about Model UN and help them apply it to their real world. Since then, we've written guides for over 18,000 students around the world. Our guides total 1.5 million words in 104 languages, as you mentioned, and our students come from 101 countries. We've also had the opportunity to start a fellowship program where students apply Model UN education to real-world impact with their personal experiences and the United Nations, and they're able to do a variety of things. So one of our fellows who recently graduated started a Sustainable Development Goal workshop, which is a UN-related workshop for 2,000 students in his local community. Another one developed a UI/UX platform on biogas in Indonesia. So these students are doing a wide variety of things, applying the skills of Model UN that I mentioned earlier to the real world. Recently, we were on Fox News, recognized by Forbes, and we've partnered with global organizations like Med Global, United Nations Association of Chicago. We just partnered with the Gray School of Applied Diplomacy at DePaul University. And we also work with an advisory board of industry leaders from the United Nations Foundation, from Vanderbilt University, and New York Times bestselling authors.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is really cool.
That is crazy how you spread that across the whole world.
Mm-hmm. And it's also really refreshing to see other teens who are also doing really, really big in their communities and ultimately our entire world, as in your case. So
what do you think most people get wrong about leadership, especially when it comes to kids and teens?
I think one thing that there's a big misconception about is that age is a limitation, and people see, even myself, I'm experienced it, I'm sure you guys have because you're doing amazing things at such a young age. People see a kid or a teen, and maybe rightfully so, they think, okay, this kid is inexperienced. This kid doesn't know as much as I do. But here's where it becomes wrongfully so. They think, okay, I don't need to listen to this kid's ideas because this kid is young, they don't have experience, and therefore they can't offer me more than I can offer them. And I think that's a huge misconception because, as I mentioned, your guys' experience, my experience, we've proven that young people are able to change the world, whether that's through our own organizations, our own platforms, or even just our personal experiences. We have ideas, we have goals, we have ways that we can work together to help educate other people, to help inspire other people like you guys do at this podcast, especially with the prevalence of technology, artificial intelligence, social media, all of these things that are up and coming in the past 5-10 years and will continue to be up and coming for the next decades. So I think that's a huge misconception that we're starting to fix, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy as well for so many kids around the world and so many teens around the world to do, because as long as we find what we love and we continue to use it to educate people, and just improve the world and make it a better place one step at a time. And that's why we teach people like you can be that ripple effect. So, what do you think is one leadership habit that you practice daily that's helped you the most?
I would say one thing that a lot of people get wrong is they say yes to everything. So if you get an opportunity, or if you get somewhere to speak, or if you get a partnership opportunity, people will say yes to everything because they're thinking, okay, if I get all these opportunities, it'll all culminate in this amazing recognition or in this amazing accomplishment or impact. And that's what people are so laser focused on, that they lose sight of the bigger picture. Because like for me, I was like that at first, but then I realized that to actually get something to go somewhere, you really need to focus on that and that thing only. That's not saying you can't have a social life, you can't be a student in school, you can't spend time with your family, but in general, there's a lot of things you need to say no to. So this past year, I've turned down a countless number of things just to focus on Model UN Academy, on developing that, because I found the thing, like you said, that I loved, I was good at, and I was having an impact in the world. So I really just laser focused on that, forgot about other professional things or opportunities that were offered to me. And I think that's really changed how I've been able to work as a leader and as a young kid.
So basically, just learning to say no can help you become a better leader.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing something so big. So did you ever feel like scared or feel like an imposter while building something so big?
Yeah, like especially in high school, like with friends.
And how did you push through that? I mean, especially going to the UN seems like it's pretty scary.
Mm.
Yeah, so I've been really involved in the United Nations Association, which is under the United Nations Foundation. So it's not the actual UN you'll see on TV and in the news, but there's a lot of people who have worked at the United Nations there. And definitely going there, I was one of the only high schoolers, if not the only high school student. And I actually remember in this past November, I was at the United Nations Association Leadership Summit. And while I was there, I was talking to some old friends that I had met previously, and they said, "You're the only high school student here, except maybe one or two kids." And then I met someone else, Cassie Page, who is currently a freshman in college, and she joined the United Nations Association as a freshman in high school. So when I was talking to her, she was like, "I know exactly what you're going through. For a long time, I was the youngest one. I was the high school kid, and now that's you," which is amazing. And at a lot of times, it can feel, like you said, it can give you a lot of imposter syndrome. You can be like, there's full-on professionals here. There's people who have worked in the United Nations. There's people with startups that have raised $30 million, and I'm just here, a high school kid. But I think there's not really any way to get past that in the short term. You just need to kind of ignore it for a bit and then continue working on what you're doing and doing what you're doing. And it never goes away fully, but I think as you get acclimated to the environment of being young with an environment of people who are older and more experienced, it becomes a little bit more normalized.
That's so inspiring.
So, what advice would you give to kids who are afraid to speak up and share their ideas?
I'd say just to talk to people for sure, because a lot of times it takes more than one person to find the thing that you want to do, to find the way you want to have an impact on others, whether it's just one person, 10 people, or a million people. Any idea that has an impact on others is an amazing one. And even if you look at your guys' platform, you all work together to host this podcast. I know you wrote a book. So that's something that I'm sure none of you would have wanted to do by yourself, and it wouldn't have been as successful if you did it by yourself. So even with me, I get a lot of people that DM me on Instagram and say, "Hey, how'd you do this? Can you help me out with this?" And like I said, I say no to a lot of them just to kind of laser focus on my priorities. But I tell them one thing that's really vital is to work with others. So a lot of my accomplishments were only possible because of our team. We have an amazing team of students around the world, fellows, ambassadors, people who work on our global leadership team, who are all spitballing new ideas every day. They're all saying, here's how we can improve this. Why don't we partner with this organization? Oh, I know someone over here that might be able to help us out with this. And all of these new ideas, a constant stream of them, is really an amazing way to grow and improve, whether it's on an organizational level or a personal one.
That's so amazing.
And it's amazing how there's like you're doing so much and yet like you're still in high school. And I think that there's so much for people to also learn from that, because any age you can start to make a difference. So
100%.
what do you think was one of the biggest mistakes that you actually learned a lot from?
That's a good question. I would say for me, one of the biggest mistakes was probably kind of piggybacking off my last answer, hiring the wrong people. So in the beginning, I really wanted to get a team together, and that was kind of my only focus for a short period of time. And I ended hiring the first people who were interested. And I thought, okay, they're interested, they're smart, they're motivated, and they're likable. This is everything I need to find people that want to work on this with me and really advance our organization. And that was a big mistake on my part. I think there's a lot more that someone needs to be able to help you out in a team setting, in an organizational setting, and any other environment. They need to be able to understand that they're wrong. Then sometimes they need to be able to learn how to improve. They need to be able to take no for an answer. And like I said earlier, they need to be able to come up with new ideas, to push boundaries instead of just doing the work that's given to them. And thankfully, I've been able to find the right people now. But I think a lot of people also forget about the fact that there's so many things you need to get the right team and have that impact.
Yeah, and I mean, mistakes are just a big part of just being human and living. And I know that you are like so incredibly busy, and especially like so am I, especially with the big TEDx thing coming up. So what is one message you want every kid listening to remember, or teen?
I would say it's definitely just the fact that you can do whatever you put your mind to if you really get the people around you together, if you really focus your time onto that one thing, like I mentioned earlier, just kind of bringing together everything we've talked about. If you take all of these lessons and really apply them to something that you find yourself passionate about and something that you really love, you can have an astronomical impact. And that might not be something that you find on your first try. I was lucky enough to, but if I found that Model UN Academy wasn't necessarily working for me, I wouldn't keep trying the same thing and keep failing. I would maybe I would keep trying for a little bit. Seems like it doesn't work out, move on to something else until I find something I truly love and then stick with that. And for a lot of people, that won't be the first thing that they try, but for me it was, and I was lucky enough to find that. But I think once someone is able to find that, if they really laser focus on that thing, if they surround themselves with the right people, they can go places.
It's so inspiring and so empowering. So where can people learn more about you and your amazing work?
Yeah, so you can learn about Model UN Academy on our organization website, which is modelunacademy.org. We have all of the programs I mentioned earlier that you can get involved in, or if you just want to learn a little bit more about Model UN, you can access our masterclass or written guides for free. And you can also follow us on social media, which is linked through our website.
So definitely check that out because you're doing amazing work and we need more people, stepping into this field and start taking charge. So
yeah. And definitely also just because of check out our TEDx Oak Park Youth event coming up this Saturday. If you live around the area, just come by. I think you can probably you're gonna learn so much because all these youth specifically have such amazing ideas. And thank you again for all you are doing in the world and for your inspiration today.
For sure. Thank you guys for having me.
It's really our pleasure.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
So now it's time to recap Momin key points.
You are never too young to change the world. Don't lose sight of the bigger picture. It is okay to say no, to stay laser focused on what you're trying to learn and love.
Just because you're with people with more experience and who are older, push past that, because your idea has an impact and is always amazing.
Work together with others who are passionate or talk to others. Don't work by yourself.
Keep trying until you find something you truly love and stick with it. Surround yourselves with the right people. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zain Ansari.
I'm Abdullah.
And I'm Iman.
Follow my family on social media, Holistic Mom D and The Holistic Kid Show. And check out our new best-selling book, The Teen Health Revolution. Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast on iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of The Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids.
Thank you, everyone.